Today we're going to talk about how mergers and acquisitions and IPOs are not exit strategies. Exit strategies are the first thing any angel investor should be asking about. The question about an exit strategy is really a question about how am I going to get my money back? So entrepreneurs who are pitching who don't have an exit strategy are really going to be at a disadvantage over those that do. So why is M&A and IPO not an exit strategy? Well, simply, that's not a strategy. That's just the two types of exits that there are out there. So to say that your exit strategy is M&A or IPO is really saying absolutely nothing at all. So when you say that, it's just the same as saying, I'm going to sell stuff, and that's my business strategy. It's really not helpful for the investor to understand what you're trying to accomplish. So the exit strategy follows the second habit of highly successful people. Begin with the end in mind. So what is an exit strategy? We think it's got three elements. The first thing you should have to have a comprehensive exit strategy is to understand comparable transactions. You should know the following things. Who is acquiring companies in your industry? Who are the active companies who are really acquiring a lot of different people? Number two, what is their reason for acquiring? Understand their strategy. How are they filling things in? Are they just acquiring customers? Are they acquiring technologies? Why are they acquiring companies? Three, what is the average selling price? Does the average deal look like $50, $75 million, or does it look like $250, $350 million? You should understand where transactions are taking place in your industry. And finally, what is the average multiple of revenue for exit valuations? So if your company is going to be having revenues of $25 million and you're in a 4x exit industry, then you could expect your exit to be somewhere around $100 million. The second element that you should understand for your exit strategy is how does your exit strategy vary over time? So there's never just one right time for an exit. And it's naive for entrepreneurs to be thinking, oh, I'm going to exit in 5 years, which is the standard answer. And of course, that is when most exits occur, but there are a lot of opportunities for early exits, or in some cases, you might need to extend beyond for 6 or 7 years. So CEOs who are focused just on that 1 5-year window are missing out on opportunities. So understand how your value proposition to acquirers might change over time. For example, early on in your company, maybe the value is about your IP, the technology you've developed. Later on, you might have a lot of customers, and that customer list and those customer connections might be the value that somebody might find to acquire your company. And finally, in a later stage company, maybe it's just your free cash flow. Maybe that's the value. So as your company progresses, there are going to be different reasons why companies will want to acquire you, and it's important to understand what those reasons are. Finally, the third part of the exit strategy is to understand who your potential acquirers are. Now, it's not helpful to an investor to say, oh, we'll be acquired by somebody in our industry. It's much better to be able to say, here are the 3 or 5 particular companies who are doing a lot of acquisitions, and here's how we fill a particular strategic need for them. Ideally, you can even point to how you'll be fulfilling a need in a 3 to 5 year time span. So one reason it's important to know the exact people that you're going to be hoping to have acquire you is you can start making those relationships now, early on. If you understand who they are and what their strategic need is that you're filling, you can drive your company to be most successfully filling that need for those companies. So you know that the best exits are coming from strategic acquisitions and not financial acquisitions. So really understanding the strategic reasons why those companies would acquire you will give you the best returns for your company. Also, the best companies come from multiple bidders. So if you've got a list of 3, 5, 7 companies who might be potential acquirers, and you've started creating those relationships early on so that now you've known them for 2, 3, or 4 years before the acquisition comes along, your likelihood of having multiple bidders is increased. And finally, The worst strategy ever for exits is what a lot of accelerators tell people to do. Just build value and someone will come along and acquire you. That's naive, and it's not going to give you the best opportunities. So, timing is the other important thing. So, strategic acquirers are going to acquire you when it makes sense for them, not for you. So, if you're going to wait for 5 years and wait for acquisitions, your chances of being acquired right then are fairly limited. Better to understand who the acquirers are, get those relationships going, and they will come to you when it's time. So for the conclusion, the startups that have these 3 elements researched will be far ahead of their competition, both for getting angel and venture capital investment and for developing their companies towards the best possible outcomes.